Final headline bulletin here on Morning Live. Preparations for the President's inauguration are well underway at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will be inaugurated tomorrow. He was re-elected for a second term during the first sitting of the National Assembly last week, Friday. The presidential inauguration is expected to be attended by the President-elect, members of Parliament, dignitaries, foreign heads of state, other guests and members of the public. The ceremonial elements will include, amongst others, a 21-gun salute, a salute flight by the South African Air Force, inspection of a SANDF battalion, a battalion march past and must fly past. The inauguration will be broadcast on SABC News Live and on SABC Plus tomorrow. The proceedings will also be streamed live on SABC News' YouTube channel and SABC Radio. All right, government says it's finalizing those preparations for the inauguration of President-elect Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow. He was re-elected as the president of the country at the first sitting of the National Assembly of the 7th Democratic Administration at the Cape Town International Convention Centre on Friday. Meanwhile, dignitaries are expected at Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria from today. We've seen quite a few arrive through the early hours of this morning and during the show this morning. Sophie Mokoena is there. Let's get an update from her, find out who has touched down and who we're expecting still. Sophie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Leon.
Talk to us about the arrivals, who is here in the country and who we're still expecting to attend the inauguration.
Well, arrival at our international airport, we saw the arrival of the Prime Minister of Burundi early hours of this morning, but because he was using a commercial flight, landed on a normal hangar where he then was taken to the office of DIRCO here at the OR International Airport. We expect other leaders to arrive at that airport later today. That would include your head of state of Lesotho, Kinlizie III, and others. At Waterkloof, we expect many leaders also to arrive. That would include the Angolan president. As you know, that Angola is the current chair of SADC. And then we also expect the president of Nigeria to arrive later today. We expect the president of Namibia to arrive today. Zimbabwe also, and that would include countries sending the ministers to represent their respective countries. And of course, you'll have Mozambique, the president of Mozambique arriving later today, the president of Tanzania, the only woman president on the continent who has got executive powers, will be arriving today. And the heads of state and government who are chairing the different regional organizations, like I pointed out, SADC with Angola and the incoming SADC Zimbabwe. You will have West Africa represented by the president of Nigeria. You will then have East Africa also. It is represented by the Prime Minister of Burundi, because Burundi is the chair of East Africa. When you look at IGAD, you will have the president of South Sudan, who is the chair of IGAD. And of course, you will have the chair of Central Africa and COMESA. In terms of other regions except Africa, they will send their representatives, including envoys, as China has done. You would have countries such as Cuba sending the vice president, and you have countries, particularly your United States of America, your UK, some in Europe, some in Asia, some in Eastern Europe, sending their local diplomatic representatives in form of high commissioners and also ambassadors. So you will have that kind of representation in terms of the international community, but also the commissioner of the AU, Moussa Faki, representing the continental body.
Yeah, certainly. And this is something that we should be seeing through the day as these arrivals do take place. And as you're saying, more of the ambassadors that are already stationed here in Pretoria are going to be represented there as well. So it's quite interesting. But we did hear that the foreign minister, if we may turn our attention just for a very short moment to Palestine, we do know that there is certainly going to be representation from Palestine. Any news on looking at Russian delegation or Chinese delegation, perhaps maybe even Israel? Do we see those representatives?
There's no way Israel would be represented. The relations are still frosty. As you know, that the ambassador returned back to Israel since that outbreak of that conflict in the Middle East, after there were lots of protests and calls that he must leave, and after that case at the ICJ. And therefore, he is still in Israel. I was talking to him yesterday on decision by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to dissolve the war cabinet, and he is not speaking on behalf of Israel right now because he was recalled, and therefore I don't expect Israel representatives. But I know that China is sending an envoy on behalf of the president of China, Xi Jinping. Russia, it's not clear yet, but I do know that if there's no one coming from Moscow, you'll then have the ambassador who's based in South Africa, because the president has already spoken to President Vladimir Putin when he congratulated him. You know that America issued a statement also congratulating President-elect, and therefore other countries as well. But those two powers, the three powers with their controversies, North and South and BRICS, they won't be represented by their heads of state and government because of the challenges. It was very difficult to organize because of the outcome of the elections. Invitations were sent earlier to indicate roughly when would the inauguration happened. Only on Saturday they were able to specify the dates, as you had the Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, explaining earlier on, as DERCO is responsible for all these international guests.
All right, let's leave it there, Sophie. Thank you. Thanks, Sophie Mokoena, giving us a bit of an update ahead of the inauguration tomorrow and the international dignitaries that will be represented there.